Thank you all for coming. I'm State Representative Renitta Shannon. I represent Georgia House District 84. This press conference is to address the abuse of Katie McCray, a local woman who is struggling with mental health issues by a DeKalb County police officer, P.J. Lachard. Like many of you, I watched the alarming video of Officer Lachard assaulting Miss McCray and was angered by what I saw. The officer's actions were both disgusting and egregious. Katie McCrary did not deserve to be barbarically beaten prior to arrest. In fact, nobody deserves that type of brutality. I actually do know what it's like to work a job where just going to work every day, you risk your life, and I can tell you that is not an excuse to abuse the public. Now, I am encouraged that the DeKalb County Police Department chose to reopen the investigation after watching the video. But today, I and the community are calling for Officer Lachard to be immediately terminated from the DeKalb County Police Force and for him to be appropriately charged criminally for his actions. Oftentimes, when we talk about use of force issues and when they come to light, we only talk about better training for police officers. And yes, we absolutely need mental health and de-escalation training for officers in order to reduce violence against themselves and the community. But what is continually missed and is sorely lacking in the conversation is that there needs to be accountability for police in general. Sometimes it's not about the training, it's about the character of the officer. Our criminal justice system currently operates under an inherent assumption of proper use of force needed and truth-telling by officers. But there is not a robust system of checks and balances in place to account for those who are not honest and who do use excessive force, especially on the same communities time and time again. As a society, we cannot afford to continue to stick our heads in the sand and operate as though every single officer is always acting appropriately, or that racial and socioeconomic biases do not play a role in police interactions. This hurts all of us. Police cannot do their jobs without the support of the community. And so all communities need to be able to trust that they will be treated equally and fairly by police, and that their civil rights will remain intact during police interactions. The police are taxpayer funded and are supposed to be a resource for the community. But because of the actions of some, much trust has been broken through direct misconduct. We want good policing in our neighborhoods. This is a terrible situation that only came to light because someone had the courage to record the incident and make it public. What if there had been no bystanders? I've spoken with Ms. McCrary's attorney, and I have also been made aware that she has a daughter and a family that cares about her. Her daughter will have to see this tape, and that is heartbreaking. I have a meeting scheduled with the chief of police for this week, Friday, to discuss relations with the community. But make no mistake about it, I will continue to fight to make sure that my constituents and every Georgian is treated fairly and equally under the law. And now we'll have Senator Parent, who represents the district, to share a few comments.
Thank you, Representative Shannon, and thank you all for coming today. Like many of us around Georgia, here at the state capitol, and around the nation and indeed the world, my eyes brimmed with tears, and I just could only shake my head when I watched the heartbreaking video of Katie McCrary writhing on the ground while she was being held by the officer and then whipped with a metal baton, when it was clear that at that time she posed no threat to this officer or the safety of the public. It's since, of course, come to light that Ms. McCrary has mental problems. She's a long history of mental illness. And many people that interact with the police on a regular basis, like Mrs. McCrary, likewise have mental health problems. She is someone, due to that illness that she combats, that is known to the police. In fact, I believe that she was known to the very officer that was beating her. She's a slight woman. She had been, as I've been told, panhandling. You know, we as a civilized society cannot stand for the. I would never want to see an animal treated as it looked as though she was being treated. I never would. I would never want to see a dog beaten that way. As a matter of fact, I think that there might be a lot more outcry if it went around and we saw someone smacking a dog with a metal baton. Probably because people would immediately assume that that animal was less powerful than the person who was beating it. And here, for some reason, we don't always have the clear eyes that we need to have to say, yeah, there are gray instances, and we recognize the difficult job our officers do. But when it seems acceptable to an officer to be severely ravaging and beating a person, a slight woman who's on the ground that clearly has a mental illness, is known to him and poses no danger to the public, we've crossed the line, and that is something that communities are justified to loudly ask of their officers that they deserve better. Because if members of certain communities, and we do know, it must be said, that there are these racial disparities in treatment, such as what we've observed. We know that that happens more often to communities of color. How are individuals in those communities in particular to feel that they can rely on the police to protect them? And we all we're one society. We're all DeKalb, many of us are DeKalb residents. Representative Shannon and I certainly are. We all pay for our police officers, and we thank them when there's a job well done. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, and we thank them for the hard work they do. Mm-hmm. We really do. I have a great respect for law enforcement, and we obviously need and honor them as a society. But when there are instances that clearly show that something has gone terribly wrong, we must stand up and loudly say, that is unacceptable. That must not be allowed to happen, because behavior like that perverts the ability of communities to have the safety that they deserve and officers to do the job that we call on them to do, and that the vast majority of them do with great honor. So I join Representative Shannon in saying this is an abomination. We will not stand for it. We need to ensure that our police officers are equipped to deal with problems of homelessness that are so often accompanied with mental health crises and de-escalation. You don't just jump to using force. These things need to be front and center with our police. And I know that there are many officers out there who have that front of mind. But many others need to be reminded and need to be going through more training, and others should not serve on the force at all. If their instinct is just to be violent, then that's just not someone who should wear a badge. Another job might be okay for them, but not that one. Not when they hold so much power and lethal weapons. Thank you for being here with us today.
We'll take any questions.
What about the follow-up investigation by the supervisors who initially cleared Officer Lashai? Do you have any questions for them or how they conducted that investigation?
I mean, I am curious to know how they conducted the investigation, what steps they went through. Did they try to retrieve video? I did read some reports that there was not video available. I don't know if that's true. So really, I'm just waiting for the investigation to be completed. As I mentioned in my statement, I'm meeting with the Chief of Police on Friday to talk about concerns in general, because this is not the only incident that we've had. And I just think that, once again, like I said before, in order for officers to be successful at doing their job, they have to have a working relationship with the community. So I think that this is a great time to talk about community concerns in general.
What are you expecting to happen at that meeting with the police chief?
Well, I understand that the police chief cannot, talk about this investigation specifically, so I would not ask him to do that. But I do expect to build a relationship and for him to hear the concerns of my constituents about police interactions, and also talk about ways that we can move forward. Because, as I stated, the actions of some are causing the entire police force to have to wear their actions. So it's causing all police officers to kind of come in question as to what their activity was. In this incident, we are only made aware that this happened because of a video of an innocent bystander who took the video, which you have to think about the courage that it took for that person to film the incident. So my thing is that without this video coming out, we would have never known that this had happened. I'm sure Miss McCrary probably would have been able to articulate that this had happened, but who would have believed her? So we have to get to a point where we don't rely on the community taking videos in order to have everybody feel that police are acting appropriately in all situations.
So as a representative, is there a permanent, long-term solution that you're able to get for people that, say, the community leaders who had a similar press conference last week aren't able to get?
Well, I don't I wouldn't say a permanent solution. Senator Perrin and I will be working on some legislative solutions that we will speak about later in the year. We don't want to diagnose, standing from this point, having not met with the chief of police specifically to go over each concern. And so it will be a work in progress. And I don't know what other representatives are doing. I know that their intention is also to work on this, so I don't want to speak for them as to what they're proposing. I can only say what we plan to do. So.
Can you speak in vague terms about what that legislation might shape up to be? Just a one or two word description?
I would say that it would be legislation to increase transparency. So.
And to that end, were you surprised that officer did not have a body camera on him? I know DeKalb was trying to roll that out.
I was definitely surprised. But I think that it's a step beyond that as well, because even in incidents where we've seen around the country where there have been cameras present and we've not been able to get justice in situations where where there's been police misconduct, there are a lot of steps that need to be taken. That what you just spoke to, the body cameras, definitely would go towards transparency in general, and that would be a great first step. But there are also other things that need to be worked out in the process to ensure that when we do have proof of misconduct, we are holding those folks accountable.
How is she doing?
Her attorney says that she is currently in a treatment facility, so I expect that she is receiving the assistance that she needs. Thank you, everybody, for coming today. I appreciate it.